The courtroom was hot as a kiln when the barefoot Apache boy lifted his hand and pointed at the black stallion. Before he spoke, the horse's ears swiveled toward him. Noah's jaw was stone. Under the torn cream poncho, his chest rose and fell slow, the only calm thing in the room. Copper skin, dark braids, bare feet planted like roots.
He is Siko'o, stolen from my tribe the night my father was killed.
Listen to the little savage. That nag is mine, bought legal and branded plain as day.
The judge's gavel cracked like a pistol. The gallery of ranchers and townsfolk sucked in breath. Dust motes froze in the amber light. Men in sweat-stained hats leaned forward. A woman pulled her shawl tight. Every eye darted between the chained outlaw and the motionless boy.
You risk contempt, boy. What proof can you possibly bring? This court does not run on fairy tales.
I ask only to whistle for him. He will come.
One note out of place, and I will have you removed. Make it count.
The courtroom fell so silent that the creak of a deputy's holster sounded like a gunshot. The stallion's dark eye found the boy and held before the boy's lips could part. A dry voice cut across the room. Attorney Clarence Webb rose, adjusting his spectacles.
Your Honor, I must object. A barefoot orphan's fantasy is not proof.
Objection overruled. The boy will have his chance to whistle, but first I will hear his account.
So you claim this horse was taken in a raid. Only you survived to tell the tale.
My father pushed me behind rocks. I saw the torches, heard the shot that killed him.
You expect this court to believe a child's memory of a dark night? What mark did you see?
The moon brand, burned into his flank before I was born.
Any man with a hot iron could scratch such a mark. Words prove nothing.
That is enough, Mr. Webb. The court will determine what weight to give this testimony.
The judge turned to Noah. The boy raised a hand to his lips. The courtroom held its breath. Noah stepped forward and loosed a broken three-note whistle. The sound quavered up, thin and fragile, yet it sliced the silence. The stallion jolted. Chains clattered as the deputies hauled. Deputy Harris shouted, "Hold him." With a squeal, the horse lunged. The chain snapped. Deputy Mills tumbled to the floor. The beast charged. Men shouted. A bench scraped. Doyle's chains rattled as he stumbled back, face draining of all color. The stallion crossed the room in 3 strides and thrust his muzzle into Noah's chest, shoulders heaving.
Siko.
The horse nuzzled deeper, and a sob broke somewhere in the gallery. The big dark eye reflected only the boy.
This proves nothing. A trained horse and a lying boy. I demand the brand be examined.
Order. I will have order.
But the room was a riot of whispers and rising bodies. Doyle's lawyer kept shouting, pointing at the horse's flank.
Bring the blacksmith. We will settle this now.
A farrier in a leather apron rose and picked his way forward. Deputies hauled the stallion's head around, holding him fast. He scraped the fresh iron brand. Flakes of scar tissue gave way. Beneath the crude mark, old lines emerged like a buried story.
What is that mark?
The moon brand of my father's line. It was burned into this horse the spring I was born.
A clever forgery. Any rustler could have burned a phony mark over a stolen horse.
Save your breath, Mr. Webb. This court will summon the blacksmith and open a full inquiry into the alteration.
Doyle yanked at his chains, the smirk finally gone. Sweat beaded on his scarred forehead. The gallery hummed with uneasy murmurs. The brand had spoken louder than any lawyer, but the judge was not finished. Noah stood motionless, one hand still on the stallion's neck. The boy had won ground, but the war was only beginning. A lean man in a dark suit rose from the gallery. The Indian Affairs badge on his vest caught the light.
Agent Elias Cross, Bureau of Indian Affairs. Your Honor,
I have a federal record that pertains to this horse.
The document read, Raid the 3rd of June. 1 black stallion, Apache Moon brand, taken from reservation.
Let me see that. You expect us to trust a government clerk's scribble?
Approach the bench, Mr. Cross. I will review the document myself.
Doyle's chains rattled. The outlaw's gaze fixed on the satchel, a muscle ticking in his jaw.
That entry matches others. The raid that orphaned the boy was not isolated.
I am admitting this document into evidence. The court will hear what else the agent has to say.
Records show dozens of horses stolen in identical raids across the territory.
Noah felt the stallion shift beside him. The boy's hand tightened on the warm neck. The stakes had grown beyond one horse.
Your Honor, I request permission to depose the prisoner on the other raids.
Granted. Mr. Webb, your client will answer the agent directly.
Doyle's throat bobbed. He shot a panicked look at Webb, but the lawyer's face had become a mask of stone.
I ain't swinging alone. A cavalry officer gave me the schedules, knew every Apache herd.
The gallery erupted. A woman cried out. Leather boots scuffed the floor as men stood. Webb shot to his feet, but the judge's hand came down like a hammer.
The defendant will finish his statement, or I will clear this room of spectators.
Give me a name, Doyle. What officer sent you the schedules?
Not without a deal. You keep the rope off my neck, I'll give you the whole chain.
The judge ordered Doyle confined to the fort stockade. The agent's satchel now held a conspiracy. Cross followed the hollow ring of Doyle's chains into the stone stockade. Inside, the outlaw's hands shook.
You wanted a deal. Name the officer who gave you the patrol schedules, and I'll speak for leniency.
Captain Marcus Thorne, Fort McDowell. He'd ride out with us. Horses, stolen by midnight, rebranded by morning.
How many horses, Doyle? Where did you sell them?
47 head, spread across a dozen ranches. Thorne kept a list. Check his desk.
By noon, Cross had a wire to the territorial marshal. Deputies saddled in the dark, lanterns swinging. The first raid turned up 6 Apache horses, their brands freshly disguised. Cross checked each against the files.
This is only the beginning. No rank protects a man who steals from tribes. We ride for the captain.
News fanned across the reservation. Noah stood with Siko and watched the riders pass. The taste of justice on the wind. Cross folded the evidence into his satchel and looked north. Somewhere in the fort, a captain still thought he was safe. Word of Doyle's confession reached Fort McDowell by evening courier. Captain Thorne read the dispatch, his jaw tightening.
Send a message to that Apache elder. The boy recants, or the tribe pays.
A sergeant rode into the reservation under moonlight, the threat folded in his tunic.
They want you silent, child, or they will burn what remains of our herd.
I will not hide. I will testify against Thorne himself. Noah's hands curled into fists at his sides.
By dawn, Cross and a posse of federal marshals descended on a second ranch. They cut open fresh brands, revealing the old tribal marks one by one.
Cross held up a dusty ledger. 14 head recovered. Thorne's office will be next.
Herds were driven from 3 more ranches. Each horse a living piece of evidence. On Cross's table, a signed order from Thorne lay waiting, enough to bring a captain to his knees. By noon, a territorial judge signed the warrant. Captain Marcus Thorne stood accused of orchestrated horse theft and conspiracy. Cross and 2 federal marshals entered the fort command building, footsteps echoing on the stone floor. They found Thorne at his desk, a half-smoked cigar in hand. He did not rise.
Captain Thorne, by federal warrant, you are under arrest.
This is my garrison. You have no jurisdiction.
Thorne's hand dove for his holster, but Deputy Harris seized his wrist and slammed it to the oak. The revolver skittered under the desk. Thorne's face contorted, veins bulging at his temples. They cuffed him and marched him out. Along the parade ground, soldiers fell silent, trading glances.
Cross fell into step behind. Your rank won't protect you now, Thorne. You'll face a military panel.
The fort gate closed behind them. The captain who had once commanded rode toward a court-martial and disgrace. The Tucson Citizen blared the headline, "Cavalry Captain Behind Apache Horse Thefts." The scandal broke wide. Ranchers who bought stolen horses panicked. Some burned sale papers. 2 tried to push herds across the border, but Cross's men intercepted a dozen more.
23 head recovered. The army has disavowed Thorne. A court-martial panel is being assembled.
They will try to break you, Noah, but the horse chose you. The truth is a shield.
I am ready. My father would have wanted the truth known.
The military judge fast-tracked the trial, setting the date for the first week of the new month. The territory held its breath.
Noah, you will be the first witness. Everything we have built rests on your testimony. Can you do it?
I will not hide. I will tell them what I saw.
Under the wide sky, the boy walked with Sikoo, the stallion's dark coat gleaming like a silent promise. The courtroom waited. A child's memory was about to be tested against a captain's lies. The military courtroom filled with brass and blue wool. Judge Thorpe struck the gavel 3 times, and silence fell like a blade. Noah climbed into the witness box. His bare feet did not reach the floor, but his voice carried to the back of the hall.
I saw the torchlight, heard the muzzle blast. Sikoo reared. My father fell. Later, I whistled, and the horse knew me.
Thorne sat rigid, his gaze trying to punch holes in the boy.
One whistle and a horse nuzzles you, that's your proof. Who taught you that little performance? You are 12 years old, a child. Grief can twist a boy's memory into any shape.
Grief does not change a brand. Grief does not make a wild stallion cross a courtroom.
No, but a clever elder could. We know tribal minds, they hide truths behind fables.
My father's blood is not a fable. The horse chose me because my father's hands first gentled him.
The courtroom exhaled. The defense fell into a bitter silence, but the accusation of coaching hung in the air like smoke.
If the boy's story is true, let him reproduce that whistle here and now. Bring the horse.
The court will allow it. Bring the stallion into the chamber.
Hooves clattered on the stone floor. Sikoo, dark as a storm, was led by a single deputy. His ears pinned forward the moment he saw the boy. Noah stepped down, bare feet silent on the wood. He lifted 2 fingers to his lips and blew the broken call. The stallion lunged. The chain slipped. Deputy Harris was yanked off his feet. In 2 strides, the horse crossed the space and thrust his muzzle against Noah's chest, a low nicker rumbling from his throat.
Sikoo.
The courtroom seemed to tilt. Officers sat frozen. A colonel's wife pressed a handkerchief to her mouth. Thorne's face went slack. The sneer that had held for weeks finally died. The defense's case lay in splinters. Across the hall, not a soul doubted the horse's truth. Thorne took the oath, his voice a dry rasp. He sat rigid, the chains of his cuffs clinking against the chair.
I am innocent of these charges. The horse was legally purchased. Doyle acted alone. The brand evidence is a fabrication. These Apaches have been trying to discredit me for years.
Your Honor, I ask to introduce the captain's own patrol orders from the night of every raid. It authorizes a patrol along the Black Mesa Trail on the 3rd of June, the same night Noah's father was killed. Every raid in Doyle's ledger matches a patrol signed by Thorne. The evidence is not Apache. It is his own hand.
Thorne's jaw worked. The arrogance bled out of him like water from a cracked canteen.
Captain, can you explain why your patrols overlap with every theft?
Those were routine. Any officer could have.
The words died in his throat. Across the room, Cross laid the papers flat, and the timeline stood like a wall Thorne could not climb. The prosecution called Samuel Prescott, a rancher clutching his hat, his voice shaking with the weight of guilt.
I bought a black mare from Thorne in the dark. When I scraped the fresh brand, an Apache mark was bleeding underneath. Did Thorne hand you the horse himself? He did. Gave me a bill of sale with his own signature. I kept it, too scared to burn it.
The bill was red, dated the night of the raid on the Black Mesa. Thorne's signature slashed across the bottom.
The defense's motion to dismiss is denied. The court will hear closing arguments, then deliberate.
The panel retired. An hour passed. Then, too, when they returned, their faces were carved from stone.
This panel is not prepared to deliver a verdict at this hour. We will reconvene in the morning.
Thorne's jaw clenched, the last color draining from his face. The wait was its own punishment. Outside, Noah stood with Sikoa among the recovered horses. The stallion blew a soft breath into the boy's palm. Justice lingered, invisible but certain. The panel filed back. Captain Thorne rose on unsteady legs, his face the color of old ash.
On every charge, theft of Apache horses, conspiracy to defraud, conduct unbecoming an officer, this court finds you guilty.
The gavel struck once. Thorne's knees buckled. He caught the table, chains clattering. The courtroom burst. A colonel's wife sobbed openly. Officers traded glances of shock and disgust.
This panel will reconvene at noon to pronounce sentence. Until then, the prisoner will be held in close confinement.
Outside, sunlight poured over the parade ground. Noah stood with Siko, the wind stirring his braids.
My father did not die in silence. The horse brought his voice into that room.
We have 12 ranches still to search. The horses are coming home, Noah.
Elder Victor came forward and set his weathered hand on the boy's shoulder. No words were needed. Some sentences are written by judges. Others are forged in a single broken whistle that refuses to fade. At noon, the panel reconvened. Thorne stood in chains before the bench, the stripes of disgrace already on his face.
Captain Marcus Thorne, you are sentenced to 15 years hard labor at Fort Leavenworth and dishonorably discharged from the Army.
The gavel fell. A subdued applause rustled through the room. No cheering, only the sound of a long wound beginning to close. Agent Cross stepped forward with his final report. The leather satchel finally light.
47 horses recovered from 12 ranches. Every branded animal has been identified and returned to the tribes.
Across the territory, Apache families gathered as the herds were driven home. Elder Victor placed a steady hand on Noah's shoulder. The horses were home. The Tucson Citizen blared the headline, "Rustler Ring Dismantled, Captain Convicted." But for Noah, the victory was quieter. He stood at his father's grave, barefoot on the sacred ground.
I will make this right count, Father. I will wear the law the way you wore honor.
After Thorne's conviction, the territorial court tried Frank Doyle for murder, theft, and brand fraud. Judge Harrison sentenced him to hang. Doyle's scarred face went slack inside the irons. 6 weeks later, under a gray sky, Doyle climbed the gallows. Noah watched, his father's memory a weight.
My father had no trial, but the law answered for him today.
When it was done, Noah walked into the empty courtroom. He stood where he had first pointed at Siko'o.
Justice can hollow a boy out if he lets it. What will you fill the space with?
I don't know. The anger is gone, but I feel empty.
Sikoa chose you because he smelled purpose, not revenge. Purpose.
Outside, the black stallion lifted his head, and nickered, the sound rolling across the empty street.
Maybe the law needed someone who heard a horse's truth. Maybe I could be that.
At the agency school, Noah learned his letters. The barefoot boy from the courtroom now wore leather moccasins and held the pencil steady.
I heard about you, son. I need a tracker who knows the land and can speak Apache.
Sikoo, and I will ride with you.
Go, child. The horse chose you for more than revenge.
Marshal Sanders pinned the deputy badge to Noah's vest, the first Apache boy to wear the star. At dawn, Noah rode out, the black stallion under him, a rifle across his saddle.
The law is not just a courtroom. It is the land you ride, the truth you defend.
They tracked rustlers across the mesa, the boy's eyes sharp as any man's. Marshal Sanders watched the boy grow, his quiet courage becoming the backbone of the posse. The barefoot boy from the courtroom now rode with a badge on his chest and purpose in his stride. By 18, Noah stood tall in a marshal's coat, his braids touched with a hawk feather. The deputy's star had worn smooth on his chest. A federal resolution appointed him the first Apache land marshal. At the territorial capital, a ceremony gathered. Sikoo, gray-flecked and patient, stood by the courthouse steps. The old stallion's ears swiveled at every familiar voice.
You turned a broken whistle into a badge. The territory will never forget it.
Your father's spirit rides with you, Noah. This is the horse's promise fulfilled.
I do solemnly swear to uphold the laws of this nation and the trust of my tribe.
The oath hung in the air. Outside, the stallion nickered, low and sure, and a few in the crowd wept. The eagle badge pinned over his heart. Noah stepped out into the sun. He was no longer the barefoot boy, but the law itself.
A single note started this. Now I ride for every truth that needs a voice.
The first Apache federal land marshal swung into the saddle. Sikoo lifted his head, and they rode into a new chapter of justice. Marshal Noah's first call came from a white rancher who begged for help. 6 of his best horses had been taken. With Sikoo under him, Noah tracked the thieves across 3 days of mesa and canyon. He found them in a box canyon at dawn, the stolen herd penned behind them.
You are under federal warrant. Drop your weapons.
They laid their rifles in the dust. Marshal Noah returned the herd single-handed. The rancher stood at his gate, his hat in his hands. He saw the marshal leading back every horse. The brand on the lead mare had once been altered by Thorne's men.
Justice sees no color. These horses are yours.
He rode away under the wide sky. The echo of his father's whistle seemed to follow him. The boy who had pointed at a stolen stallion in a courtroom had become the man who brought enemies under the shield of the law. Years later, along the ridge above the reservation, Marshal Noah rode Sikoo. The wind carried the scent of sage and memory.
A broken 3-note call, and the world cracked open. I am still that boy.
He dismounted at the grave, a simple mound of stones, the same earth that held his father.
I wore the law, Father, but my heart is still the boy who whistled in the courtroom.
He laid a hawk feather on the stones. The quill caught the last sunlight like a spark. Sikoo stood steady behind him, as he had in the courtroom long ago. Ears pricked forward. The stallion blew a warm breath into Noah's palm. The old call answered without sound. In the gold of sunset, man and horse became a single silhouette on the ridge.
Justice rides on. I am only its guide.
The eagle badge glinted once, and then the night folded softly over the land. The broken whistle did not end in that courtroom. It echoed across mesas, through court-martials, into the hooves of a black stallion still running. Sikoo lived to an old age, his bloodline preserved by the tribe. Foals bearing the moon brand still grazed the reservation grass. In the Territorial Museum, Marshal Noah's eagle badge rests in a glass case. Beside it, The original raid report from 1887. On the yellowed paper, beside the entry for one black stallion, a child's fingerprint remains. Noah's thumb, left there in a moment of justice. Justice, once a whisper from a boy's lips, can become a thunder that reshapes the land. The story of the barefoot boy who pointed at a horse became the story of a man who taught a territory that honor wears no uniform, and under the wide Arizona sky, where the dust never quite settles, the echo of that broken three-note whistle still rides on the wind. It is the sound of a father remembered, a horse trusted, and a truth that outran every lie. Marshal Noah's badge may rest in glass, but the law he carved into the earth still gallops free. And in that endless ride, justice finds its stride.